Tatum, and I'm happy to share this incredible technology with you all. The hydrogen fuel cell. I think it's the way of the future. As I have here, a couple of bullets here to present as far as some of the important aspects of this technology. It's by far much more beneficial than gasoline and diesel engines, just from the carbon buildup aspect alone. Is anybody familiar with carbon buildup from a lot of gasoline engines? And it means exactly that. It's just, sludge and pollution and that sort of thing that builds up inside of diesel and gasoline engines. And with this technology, it totally eliminates that. And with that, that majorly reduces the lifespan of a gasoline and diesel engine, which is another very important aspect of the hydrogen fuel cell technology. And currently, here in Maryland, it can reduce pollution by 30%. That's an astronomical number to start out. Obviously, you can't give 100% because it hasn't hit mainstream yet, in terms of the high volume of gasoline and diesel vehicles that are currently on the road. And it's grid independent. Basically, it's totally a dependent technology. It can stand on its own. It does not have to rely on any political means or outside sources to survive. So that's definitely incredibly important, since now we totally depend on a lot of, or mainly the Middle East for our current oil to function our vehicles, our gasoline and diesel vehicles. The other important thing is Environmental Protection Agency is currently funding this technology in our state. Any dealer that is currently building these vehicles can apply for a grant or a rebate from the Environmental Protection Agency, and that primarily reduces a lot of their funding on getting whatever parts that are required to make this whole thing work. So they fund a major portion of this to ensure that we really address the environmental issues that we're having in the state. And that's just a couple of photos of what the technology looks like from a engineering perspective. It's almost as similar as gasoline or fuel engines, as you can see with the fuel cell that sits on top. And by the way, that whole diagram is part of this technology, not just the plate that's on top. And then a lot of the vehicles are going to look like the bottom right picture there. I guess it would be closer to the Toyota Camry type body style is what most of the manufacturers are designing for the vehicle to look like.
Yeah, could I ask you to go there? Thank you very much.
Thing here. Okay, some of the advantages of this technology here in Maryland. A really big one is eliminating emissions. If you're familiar with emissions, I'm sure most of you are, when you go and get your vehicle inspected, it usually has to pass a smog test or some sort of emission. This technology totally eliminates that, because again, you don't have that carbon footprint that causes a lot of environmental issues, which is primarily the whole reason for doing an emission test in the first place. No fluctuation of gas prices. I know we can all relate to that. know, every time you turn around, it seems like the prices, particularly this time of year, are going up more than they're going down. You're not dealing with that with this, and primarily because it's based on almost a set price. The best way I can explain that is if you look at your electric bill, you're primarily paying by kilowatt hours. And so how I think that would relate to this is you would be paying for, like if you're going a long distance, or almost the same as in a regular vehicle, however many miles you're going, is, you know, that's all you're gonna be using. But the big difference is you're not having to worry about, is the price gonna be different tomorrow than it is today? And that's primarily because of the infrastructure of the stations that you can fuel these cells with, and it's a set price with that for the most part. So to a large degree, you get rid of price fluctuation. Long range driving, on average, about 500 miles per charge. And I put 450 up here because you're alerted once you have, I guess you could say 50 gallons remaining in your tank. And then the system would just simply shut off. And that's just as a safety precaution, so that obviously, you know, you don't totally run out of fuel, and you could be in the middle of nowhere, where this technology is a little bit more challenging to get the fuel than it would be a gasoline or diesel engine. So that's a very important point to you know, make sure you're within that 50-mile radius before your cells completely die on you. And the performance of the technology here in the state. Basically, kind of back to the emission thing again. It uses water and electricity to operate. That's primarily what the cells are made of. The hydration will primarily come from the infrastructure. Fueling stations is what they're basically called. And 0 to 60, 10 seconds, if you're wondering RPM or that sort of thing. So you will be able to maintain the flow of traffic here. I know the Beltway can get very, at a fast rate at times. And the technology lasts as long, twice as long than gasoline and diesel. And again, that's primarily, you don't have the carbon footprint. That is huge. And so that's what they're saying is primarily the reason for the long endurance of it. Cost of ownership here in the state of Maryland. Don't let these prices blow you out of the water. They're primarily equivalent to a lot of the common vehicles I think people buy today. As you can see, starts around $40,000 up to $125,000. Now, just like any other vehicle, this price range is not just solely focused on the technology, but it's features and that sort of thing. Just like any other vehicle, that's the reason for that range, because of all the other bells and whistles you may want to throw in there. Or you can also lease, which is very popular. A lot of people just lease the vehicle, primarily for trial and error, you know, just to test it out and determine, you know, if they want to convert over. So that's a very good option. And compared to the gasoline prices, it's going to be a little bit doubled. That has a lot to do with the infrastructure, because usually the less of something, particularly when you're starting out, it could be a little bit more expensive than you know, a multiple of our infrastructures, like gas stations and what have you. But that's definitely gonna drop like anything, like anything else. It probably will be equal to or slightly above. And the maintenance is half the cost again. You know, it just